Hi, this is Ira Gorlick, and this next series of lectures are going to be on spontaneous order. I've really taken a lot of time on spontaneous order because I think it's critical for a lot of different reasons. So hopefully you'll like this and see where it fits into what we're talking about. So again, the learning objective: what should be the community's role in managing commerce in general and the internet in specific? So this is our net neutrality question, is should the government be involved in managing the internet? And then the question becomes, how does spontaneous order then help us answer these questions? Spontaneous order is similar to the invisible hand I talked about earlier, but not exactly. F.A. Hayek, you can see why he's one of my favorite people. Of all the 20th century theorists of spontaneous order, F.A. Hayek has contributed most to the intellectual reproduction of Adam Smith's vision of a self-correcting social order which requires little direction or control. So again, this is a recurring theme, the idea that conservatives and libertarians believe that you don't need a lot of government involved in managing the economy or managing social order, and Adam Smith talked about it in terms of the invisible hand, and Friedrich Hayek talks about it in terms of spontaneous order. One of Hayek's most famous ideas is that order can emerge as a result of particular individuals acting on local knowledge. He believed that economic and political order need not be designed and implemented by central planning. And this is an important point, and because I'm going to make a distinction later about difference between economic and legal order, and I may even change this slide as I move forward. For my lecture on central planning, Hayek believed that our social structures are so complex and function on so much dispersed, confused, and unknown information that no central authority could harness the details required to design them to be optimally effective. Okay, so this is a recurring theme. Hopefully it makes sense. I think what's written there makes perfect sense, and even go back to my lectures on knowledge and information to see how I got to this point. Hayek believed that in a free society, individuals can optimally cooperate with each other without anyone telling them how to optimally cooperate, thanks to their individual choices they make based on their specific context, thus spontaneous order. So here's an example of people walking on the street. Notice they don't bump into each other. And here you're going to see a woman in a baby carriage right there. And notice that people walk around her. Nobody bumps into her. People seem to have spontaneous order. They can move through this street without anybody telling them. The government is not telling them where to go and who to move. Here comes this big guy here walking down the street, sort of just sauntering, adjusting his pants. And he's not bumping into anybody, and people are walking around them. This is spontaneous order. Let me give you another example of spontaneous order of cars. So here's another example of spontaneous order, uncontrolled intersection. And notice that people are managing to go through that without crashing into each other. Of course, the question is, from a traffic engineering standpoint, is this most optimal for the traffic flow? Notice that cars have to stop. If you had every intersection had to have this, would that be effective? Or does it make sense for the major street to have traffic flowing with traffic lights and rights of way? Is that better? So this is the critical aspect for me from a spontaneous order standpoint. Is this optimal, or is some constructed order? Notice here here the bunch of stoppage here. So that's the question about spontaneous order. Under central planning, a farmer is told how much to plant. Under spontaneous order, the farmer decides how much to plant on their own. The farmer knows more about their particular situation than anybody else. But what is the problem being solved here? Is the problem determining how much a particular farmer should plant, or is the problem determining the optimum planting for a community? And the question is there a difference? What if the optimum for the farmer is not optimum for the community? Going back to either one of those examples, the walking in the street or the driving, what if somebody, had to get somewhere fast and he was just going to, or she was just going to barge through without worrying about anybody else? The key challenge for me is understanding how to integrate spontaneous order into economic system as dealing with bad actors. If we follow Adam Smith's invisible hand, then ultimately and in the aggregate, individuals acting on their own will do what is optimum for the economic system. But that requires that all individuals are good actors. One bad actor, in my opinion, can skew the outcome away from the optimum. So again, if we go back to either the walking or the traffic situation I showed, that all works fine if everybody is nice. But what if you have a bad actor who doesn't really act the way everybody's supposed to act? Spontaneous order is very attractive to limited government adherents because it provides a way to economic equilibrium without the government mandating rules and using force to implement those rules. But I have a huge problem with this. For my lecture on definitions, I define government as the process by which a community's will is implemented. This means that there are a lot of different levels of government: family, community, city, state, federal. So in the next lecture, I'm going to expand this a little more about spontaneous order. Thank you.